Matt here with Keeping It YYC. Today we're joined by Salimah Kassam with Sunrise Community Link. How are you today, Salimah?
I'm doing okay. Thanks for having me, Matt. I love the idea of being local and supporting local in all ways.
As do we. What a coincidence.
Excellent.
We'll get right into it, and we'll have you tell us a little about Sunrise Community Link.
Sure. So Sunrise is a resource center that exists in East Calgary, so right off of 17th Ave Southeast. And we are here to help people with their basic needs like food, housing, clothing, obviously shelter, household items, all of that kind of good stuff. And we're also here to partner with people to be able to create resiliency and sustainability in their lives. We use a lot of different pathways for that. Many of them focus on financial empowerment and economic mobility.
Okay, so are you focused on families, individuals? Do you find housing for people? How exactly does that all look like?
We serve ultimately whoever comes in through the door. Predominantly our customers tend to be single individuals, often single parents as well. But however, we do see some families as well through our center. We also serve a lot of people who are street residents and who might be living precariously in the Greater Forest Lawn area. And when people come to us, we work through a coaching model and a model based in self-determination and self-advocacy in terms of how we work with clients. And so some clients may be ready for housing. Some clients may be looking for a transition in housing. They may be looking for help after being in a shelter and transitioning into something more stable. They may be exiting a recovery program and need some housing in that way. So we connect people to housing and other supports as best we can. So we're not a housing provider, but we have lots of relationships where we try and connect people into the appropriate housing if they're ready for it, when they're ready for it.
Okay, so this is a very, very personal approach. You look at everybody individually and you see exactly where they're at and where they could use some support. So it's a very in-person, personal type of approach that you're taking.
Absolutely. So as a community resource center, we're known for helping people meet that immediate need that they might have in the day, whether that's trying to figure out access to some food, paying a school fee they can't manage, trying to come up with a damage deposit in order to transition their housing. So people come to us with that immediate need, and our approach is based in solving that immediate need, working with the person to ensure that in a timely manner, we're able to provide an effective solution and supports, and then partnering with that person to create long-term resiliency and sustainability. So it goes back to our motto, which is help for today and hope for tomorrow. So under the, auspices of help for today, we'll do whatever we can to ensure that your basic needs are met and that you're feeling stable and secure and safe. And then we'll partner with you on, again, those economic mobility pathways to help ensure that you're able to build some resiliency into your life moving forward.
Awesome. I love that mantra, the word resiliency. I love that you're looking for that long-term solution for people. So. That's awesome. So my next question is, what are you doing to adapt in this current environment, considering this is a very personal thing that you're doing for people?
So at the beginning with COVID, we were able to adapt in terms of our basic needs services and as well as our economic pathways, all online and over the phone. So we're able to support, our community advocates are available to people over the phone. We can continue to connect people to resources, help people figure out what resources they might need. We're also able to support people with something called the Basic Needs Fund. So if someone is facing an emergency crisis, COVID-related or not COVID-related, we're able to provide some financial support. So everything that we can do, we've been able to do virtually over the phone. We've also been running our programs over online as well. And what's been interesting about that is that we really get this opportunity to build people's digital literacy skills. So where, we may have had a savings program that was really all about money and budgeting and credit. Really now a lot of the the work is also about helping people understand the digital tools they have around them and how to access them to learn and to keep going. So that's been one of the big fascinating things that we've been doing over COVID. We've also been able to shift a lot in terms of one of our big bodies of work, which is filing taxes for people. So we used to do this across the city, along with numerous other partners. We work with about 19 other partners on that. But we would have these big tax clinics across the city for people who are living on a low income. And in a day, you would be able to file, oh, maybe, you know, at one of the bigger ones at the Calgary Public Libraries, perhaps 300 or 400 tax returns in a day. Now, of course, we can't do that anymore. We can't have these big clinics, so it doesn't quite work. So now what we're looking at is we were able to adapt and help people get their taxes done over the phone, and still using volunteers and connecting volunteers again, using virtual tools and using the phone. So that was a big journey for us. And then one of the other major changes that we've had is, as a center, as a physical center, we were able to be a place for, again, for Greater Forest Lawn Street residents to use the bathroom, get some coffee, have a granola bar, all of that kind of stuff, and just really a little bit of human connection in the day. So we would see the street residents of Greater Forest Lawn just in our center naturally, you know, every day, probably about, you know, maybe 5 to 10 folks. And of course, now that we're not here physically and open all the time, we'll be reopened in August. But over the last few months, what we've been doing is just doing drive around outreach. So thanks to some resources that we got from the Alex Community Food Center, they gave us a whole bunch of food gift cards, which is awesome, as well as some other little hygiene resources that we have at Sunrise. We basically just go around the neighborhood twice a week and kind of try and connect with the street residents in that way. So that's been a really eye-opening experience. One of the biggest or most eye-opening pieces of that is understanding that now that we're out in community driving around, we can see that actually the number of people that we know and that we have a relationship with is unfortunately just a small fraction of who's out there needing support. So that's something that we wouldn't have known. We wouldn't have really known pre-COVID. Mm-hmm.
You're probably reaching a lot more people now is what's going to happen, right?
Yeah, it's in the drive around approach. I mean, it was a very strange thing to start doing. Driving around looking for people, back alleys and all that kind of stuff. It's a very strange experience, to be honest. But as we've been doing it, it's been great to be able to see some of our regulars, if you will, some of the people that we know and have a relationship with. But then it's also been really interesting and scary to see how there's so many other people, like so many other faces, and that we don't know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's just a lot of people that can use the support that you're able to provide. So.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, it's interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so my next question is, what can people do right now to continue supporting their local businesses, including nonprofits such as yourself?
Absolutely. So volunteerism is a huge way to support smaller nonprofits like Sunrise. So we utilize volunteers in lots of different ways, including helping people get their taxes filed, helping people understand CRA and the different benefit schemes. So if there are, we're always looking for skilled volunteers in the areas of tax filing and benefits. We also use volunteers to help with data entry and just managing some of our internal data and processes and intakes and forms and measures and all that kind of stuff. So if there's ever any volunteers who are interested in doing some administration work, we're always happy to have you. And then, so volunteerism generally is one great way, I think, to connect and give back and participate in community through COVID. And then, of course, giving is also very much always appreciated by Sunrise. And we have lots of different ways in which people can give. So absolutely, you can just give straight donations, but if you're interested, you can also give targeted donations where you might be paying for someone's laptop or helping someone make a move and managing someone's damage deposit. So there's lots of different ways to give. It can be in a very direct one-on-one way, or just a general way.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. So my last question is, are there any tips and tricks that you can share with people in relation to your expertise?
Tips and tricks. I think what we've seen in the last couple of months is just, we have a skill set that's, of course, foundational to our operations and to our values, which is just compassion. And we build our skill set in compassionate listening all the time. And I think from what we're seeing out there and what we're hearing on the phones and in person is that people just need that ear, or not just, people need a lot of things right now, but the first thing is an ear. And so if we can all just, find it in ourselves to take that extra time to just listen, to hold space for people and allow people to tell their story, and talk through a lot of the trauma, the stress, the anxiety, and all the nuances of whatever is going on in their lives, and then move forward from there. So I think that's just, I think if we can all do a little bit more of that, then maybe that would help, help us all get through this. Mm-hmm.
That's great advice. I think that would really help us all. Active listening is so important, and it's a skill that not a lot of people practice necessarily, or they're not aware of how important it may be. A lot of people are waiting for their turn to talk instead of listening and seeking to understand when people are speaking. That's so important for people to be heard and listened to. Mm-hmm. So that's great advice. I love that.
And we know at Sunrise, we know that we can't solve everything. We don't have 50,000 housing units and a whole pile of income that we can give out to people. And so I think there's probably lots of Calgarians out there who feel like the problems are so big that it's hard to figure out what I can do, and how I can actually make a dent in these huge systemic issues like homelessness and poverty and domestic violence. But maybe that first step is understanding that you don't have to have the solutions in order to help. Yeah,
the first step is recognizing and understanding the challenges before we can look at tackling them. So absolutely. Cool. Well, really appreciate you taking the time to chat today. We do ask that you end the interview by looking at your camera and stating your name along with the name of your nonprofit, and asking the fine people watching to keep it local, keep it YYC.
Just keep it local, keep it YYC.
Yeah.
Salimah Kassam, Sunrise Community Link Resource Center in East Calgary. Keep it local and keep it YYC.